Hey everyone, what's up? It's been a long time. This is the far right, left show.
Left.
And what we're doing is we're looking for people to help us host the show.
Not only are we busy, but we just want to have more people involved and share their talents and share their stories and their backgrounds, because that's the most important thing, is building community and hearing from different people, not just us jibber jabbering all the time.
And Natalie told me she's sick of it anyways.
No, I'm busy. I'm a student. Johnny's also working, so we're both very busy, but we also
Can you see the bags under my eyes?
Yeah. Oh, actually, I look pretty good today, but usually it's the weekend. After the first week, I'm not that busy right now, but yeah, I will be soon.
If you wanna host, you'll get paid $40, $20 beforehand, $20 after. We can connect you with people, with politicians. We'll We'll put your social media in the YouTube video bio, and maybe in bio, and even in the video. You know, you'll get total credit for it. I want it because I feel like there's a lot of YouTube channels where it's like, oh, there's that one person that talks a lot, and like it becomes an individualist type of thing. And I just want to have, it's about the idea. So let's have a ton of different people on here. And that way we can have just constant output. So we'll make a Patreon too. That's what I was thinking of, because if we're paying people, then we kind of got to have income coming in for that. So anyways, what I'm saying is send us an email at thefarleftshow@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you and we'll set something up. So
trust me, do it. It's really fun, and it's really not hard. You just talk to people, and if you have a lot of time in your hands, this is the perfect thing to do.
If it's paid and there's people that like to do this stuff and want attention, then they're going to do it.
Yes.
So the other thing is, we have an interview coming up right now with Nicole Lopez. She's running for Congressional District 42, which is comprised of Downey, Cudahy,
Bell Gardens, Huntington Park,
some other ones, Southeast LA. She's awesome. We just did the interview, and I hope you enjoy it. Natalie, any last words?
No, just enjoy this interview. It's a good one. Johnny, let's go!
Yeah. Welcome to the Far Left Show. We break it down, zooming through political news in the lockdown, talking to people, solving issues. These are the kinds of views you won't see on your news. Stick around the show, cause things could get crazy. We even have chihuahuas named Dougie and Daisy. We're called the Far Left to scare the neoliberals, but interview candidates from primary to general. We're the Far Left, break it down. Come and join us here and now. Johnny, Daisy, Natalie, Dougie, talk issues affecting this country. We're the Far Left, break it down. Come and join us here and now. Johnny, Daisy, Natalie, Dougie, talk issues starting now.
Sweet. So here we are with Nicole Lopez, who's running for Congressional District 42. Nicole, thanks for being on. I wanted to just kind of hear first why you're running, and also what are the areas in District 42?
Yeah, so District 42 is basically like a new district. It was combined with two other districts before the census and before like redistricting happened. So it includes Southeast LA, all the way from like Huntington Park, Cudahy, down to Downey, Bell Gardens, and then also now we have Long Beach and Lakewood. So it's a really big, diverse district, mostly Latinx voters, multi-generational homes, multi-status homes. So it's a community that I grew up in. My family has been here since the 70s, so since my dad was born, and I've lived here my whole life. So it's like a really personal race for me. And like, yeah, our whole family spread out throughout the district. So I know I at least got a few voters that are supportive, my family members. And then, well, yeah, that's why I decided to run, was because it's such a personal race. It's a very diverse community, like I said, but it's also a community that's often taken for granted. we had the same congresswoman for a very long time. And, before that, the district, part of the district was in her father's district. So it was kind of like just one family was representing the whole district. And I mean, representing is kind of, generous, because a lot of folks didn't even know who their congressperson was. And that's kind of what really motivated me when I was talking to community members. I started to realize, like, how can we say we have a democracy and, these members of Congress are representing us when people in my community don't even know who they are? So that really motivated me for sure. But also, like, the pandemics, like a lot of folks in the community, my dad almost lost his small business that was passed down from my grandfather to him, and then from him to my brother. So it's a family business that's been here in the community for decades, and we almost lost it all because we didn't have the support from the federal government. A lot of small businesses could apply for PPP loans. A lot of them didn't know how to, didn't have the resources. And I think that was a failure of members of Congress not doing outreach to communities and not talking to small business owners, especially Black and Brown business owners in the district where I'm running. And then on top of that, I had family who got infected with COVID pre-vaccine, and my brother was like still on the front lines working. So it just really kind of opened my eyes to how little true representation we have in Congress. There are a lot of millionaires in Congress, a lot of folks who have never had to worry about paying rent, who have never had to worry about not having health insurance, who haven't had to worry about paying back their student loans while still working. And I've had to worry about all those things. People in my life have had to worry about all those things. And so I think that we do need more elected officials who have had those experiences so they know that $1,000 a month, even, in the beginning of the pandemic, when they offered $1,000 and then they cut it off, like that wasn't enough. Like, how can you think that a family of 5 can live off of that? Even one person living off of that is just not realistic. And that's because there's members in Congress who that's not an issue for them. So that's really what motivated me, was talking to my community members and just like my own lived experience of seeing how little care and consideration members of Congress had for working class folks, for Black and Brown folks who were on the front lines, just like my family members. And yeah, I decided that I was gonna run, and it's been challenging. I've never run for office before, but I've been really lucky to get to connect with amazing community members who are super supportive and excited. And a lot of them have told me this is the first time I've ever talked to a candidate in my life, and they've lived here for 50, 40 years in the district. So I think that, yeah, it's time that the establishment, especially, local establishment Democrats, stop taking our vote for granted and just think that it's a given because they're Latino or because they're Democrats or whatever it may be. We have to earn their vote. We have to earn the community's vote. And that's really what my focus is.
Perfect.
Yeah. And on your website, by the way, also thank you for sharing all that. And I think it's just amazing that you're running. So thank you for that. And on your website, along with putting the policies that you support, such as support for small business, Medicare for all, quality education. I also loved reading about your background a little bit more. And I know you mentioned your family's business that's been passed down. I think on the website I saw it was called Fronteras del Norte.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious if you could talk a little bit more about the business and how that also has inspired you to do what you're doing now.
Yeah. So the small business, it means everything to us. Not just because we quite literally eat from there. Our whole family works there. But also just because it is such a big part of our community. It's one of the few Latino owned and Latino run bus transportation businesses. When Greyhound was asking people for their papers, we refused to do that. And so me personally, firsthand, I got to see the care and support that my grandfather and my dad and just our family in general had for the community, especially during, the Great Recession of 2008. And then also now with the pandemic, my family has always been really involved in the community. And I think the business has kind of been at the core of that, giving back to folks, especially folks who are coming from Mexico to go work in the fields up north in Northern California and in Washington and Oregon. My grandfather was, had the highest respect for folks who were coming to work here and would do anything he could to help them out. So I think the small business and just like being there at a very young age, helping out, answering phones. I was like 6 or 7 answering phones. And he would be like, "Can I talk to an adult?" I'd be like, "No, I can get you your ticket." But yeah, like just talking to people and hearing their stories really like made a lasting impact on me. And I saw firsthand like how difficult, especially for immigrants, how difficult it is to live in a country where many times you feel unwelcomed. And that I saw that firsthand. There's a lot of folks who are immigrants who travel on the buses and who are seasonal workers, and just hearing their stories really impacted me. And yeah, like when I was in 2nd grade, because of the stories I heard in my dad's business, I wrote a letter to George W. Bush asking him for immigration reform. So it's always been like a hub for me to hear the stories of my community, and to just see like the real impacts of what our government is and isn't doing and how that affects people in our community.
Mm-hmm. What were some common threads in the stories? Just for people to get a picture, because I don't think many people have done that kind of work where they're hearing so many different people's stories, especially those who have, Latinx descent, who have, kind of this maybe uncertain status in the country.
Yeah, I think the common theme was just they were here to provide a better life for their families. Their main goal was to either be able to support their kids who were citizens in the country, or also like, send money back to their home countries. But it was a great example of resiliency. That's what I saw throughout the whole time that I interacted with folks there. And even now, like I say, our community is made out of people who hustle. We figure it out. And that's what I saw. They figured it out. They really wanted to provide for their families, for their kids. And that's what they did, even if it meant having to travel up north and leaving their families behind. They were willing to do that because they knew like that meant everything to them. So that is a common thread. And that's something that I think I carry within our campaign. Our campaign is definitely scrappy and small, and we're running against a big establishment Democrat who has a lot of money and has a lot of support. But like that's not who I'm worried about. I'm here to get, I've said this before, the endorsement of la gente. That's all that matters to me, because those are the folks that I'm fighting for. And that's why I decided to run in the first place. I'm not trying to impress any fancy establishment, organization, or anything like that. I just really think that we, everyday people, everyday community members need better representation. So that's why I'm running. But yeah, the thread of resiliency is really what keeps me going, and is something that I continue to see in our community.
Mm-hmm. So there's Christina Garcia, and I think it's Robert Garcia, who they say are leading this, but they're both Democrats. But how are you different from them? I know you say they have a lot of major backing, but are there certain like policy or things that they've done that have showed, their difference from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are quite a few differences. Just even in the purpose of why we're running, to be completely frank, I think that both Christina Garcia and Mayor Robert Garcia are running to be career politicians. They're running, so this is like their next step for them, and that's unfortunate, because I think that we do have a lot of career politicians in Congress right now, and the longer you're in Congress, I think it's the less that you care and the less that you put effort into giving back to your constituents. So a big part of my campaign is that I do believe in congressional terms. So I think that we should have term limits. And I promise to not run for longer than 4 terms, which is 8 years, and then pass on the torch to whoever's next and whoever the voters choose. I don't think that this should be a career that's 20 plus years, like the former congresswoman of this district who was in Congress for 27 years. And even now we have people in Congress who have been here for longer than that. And I just don't think that's right. And I see that in the reasoning for why they're running for Congress right now, why I see the mayor Robert Garcia and Assemblywoman Cristina Garcia. It really feels, and I've spoken to community members, it really feels like this is just a career move. And it doesn't really feel personable or personal to why they're running. And then also I think, they are, like you said, they are running as Democrats, but I think that it's more in name than in policy. Mayor Robert Garcia has a lot of history of not being super supportive of the homeless community in Long Beach and not doing enough to provide mental health services or support there. And he also allowed for a detention center to happen in the city of Long Beach to keep children there. And it wasn't until there was backlash from local activists that he pushed to close it down. That center should have never been open. With Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, also similarly, not her policies are just kind of like checking a box, but she says that she advocates for pro environmental justice. But I've talked to community members, especially community members who live in Bell Gardens and Cudahy, who are like, we are breathing in polluted air. She's our assemblywoman. Like, what have we seen that she's done to ensure that our kids are not breathing in polluted air and allowing these factories to just function recklessly? So I think that just speaking to community members, I realized that you can post and you can say whatever you want about, what you believe in and what your platform is. But if your track record doesn't show that, if community members haven't seen that, it's just a lot of lip service. So that's what I've come to realize is that respectfully, both of the Garcias are just looking for another campaign or another career step. And that's what this campaign is for them. And they're not really focused on the issues that affect working class, multi-generational Black and Brown communities. And yeah, it's clear in their record. And it's unfortunate because I feel like, especially in communities like ours, politicians come in and, do whatever they can to get elected. And then the only person that they prioritize is themselves and their career. So that, like I said, that's not a priority for me. I never intended to run for Congress. I never thought I was going to be running for elected office. I always saw myself as a community organizer. And so my goal is not to get into Congress and stay there for 20 plus years and make this my career and make money out of it. Like, that is not what I'm doing at all. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of folks who get into this office, that's kind of what they end up doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned how, your background is in organizing. And I saw on your website that you were an organizer and advocate on Capitol Hill. And it says you were working to establish a Smithsonian American Latino Museum, reverse Trump's Muslim travel ban, and secure more aid to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about those experiences and kind of some of your takeaways from that.
Yeah. Well, it was rough. Being a young woman, and especially being a young Latina, advocating for these specific issues in Congress was very hard. There were a lot of times where there was microaggressions, where people thought I was an intern, they wouldn't take me seriously. And I'm experiencing that now, running for Congress as a young person. I had someone think that I was running for student council. So I think, it's really hard, but also, when I was working on Capitol Hill, what I saw is that people like me are in spaces where decisions are being made. And so I was very privileged and fortunate to be in those rooms talking with members of Congress and their staff and advocating for these issues, the ones that you mentioned. But that didn't mean that folks in those rooms looked like me or understood where I was coming from. So that, working on Capitol Hill and advocating for these issues on Capitol Hill, I saw how the doors to get access into these rooms were shut very tight. Yeah. And a lot of folks from my background, working class, children of immigrants, were not in those rooms, and decisions were being made on their behalf. So that's something that I really want to change when I am in Congress. I want to have a diverse staff. I want to have diverse interns from all backgrounds, so they are in those decision-making rooms and their experiences are actually influencing legislation. So being there on Capitol Hill, I learned a lot. I'm actually the only person in this race who has any experience working on Capitol Hill, working in Congress or advocating on issues on Capitol Hill. So I think that, really speaks to my experience and my willingness to work in Congress. But also I know what it's like to be in those rooms. And I grew some really tough skin. And also I learned the importance of working with different people of different backgrounds and different members of Congress. So yeah, I'm really excited to have that opportunity again and in a space where I can advocate for my hometown. But like I said, those doors to rooms with power in them, they're shut very tight. And they keep everyday people who are actually affected by the laws that are being made in those rooms, they keep them out for sure.
You have a shirt that says atrevida, right? With the definition. I would, if you are elected, would you be, well, I don't want to say in the squad, but would you be in that similar lane of, or would you be different? I guess, would you be pushing for, I know you say Medicare for all on your website. Would you go for like a Green New Deal,
Right.
public college tuition, like kind of like that Bernie Sanders / the left laundry list of policies?
Yes, definitely. I do align with, I believe, all the policies that the squad would advocate for. I do believe in a Green New Deal. I think we need to even do more than the Green New Deal. Climate change is a crisis at this point, and it's happening right now. So I would really be a strong advocate for that, for climate justice, especially looking through it from a lens of racial justice. And then also I believe in public college, free community college, and also canceling all student loan debt. There's not a reason why we shouldn't, and it should have happened yesterday. And so, yeah, along with abolishing ICE and granting citizenship to the over 11 million undocumented folks, streamers, DACA recipients. So yeah, I would say I lean pretty progressive. But that is, I do believe that we need more advocates on Capitol Hill. It just can't be the squad. There are only, a handful of folks in the squad, and we need more who really like Cori Bush, who understands what it's like to be evicted from your home. And so that's why she slept on the steps of the Capitol. And that's exactly, we need more people like her, and like AOC, who was a bartender and worked in a restaurant and knows what the struggle of working class folks. So yeah, I definitely would be supportive of the policies that are connected with the squad, but I also would not be afraid to push for more. And that's where my campaign slogan comes in, con ganas y sin miedo. The sin miedo part is very important to me, because there are a lot of times that, at least from my experience on Capitol Hill, where folks get elected and then they bow down to the establishment, and they don't have that same passion, energy, and I have nothing to lose, to be completely honest. Like I said, this is not a legacy for me or a career path for me. This is something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm not trying to stay in Congress forever. So I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to go in and push and demand and ask questions, even if it is from establishment Democrats, because I think that everyone should be held accountable. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're sitting on. And yeah, so I'm really passionate about getting to Capitol Hill and pushing the boundaries a little bit. And I'm not naive. I know a lot of folks will tell me well, there's a way that things have been done before, and these people have a lot of power. I know that I'm just one person, and the squad is just a handful of people, but that's how a movement starts, by getting more and more people in through the door. So I'm not naive in the fact that I think I'm going to go in and destroy a system that has been established for centuries before me, but I also know that we have to try to start chipping away at it.
Yeah. You have any other questions?
No, I'm just thinking about your tweet. I was looking at your Twitter account, and you said what did you say? You said going after the establishment during Aries season is so on brand for you, and that makes me laugh. As an Aries, I appreciated that.
Oh, really? You're an Aries? That's amazing. Yeah, I'm very into astrology. So that's incredible. I don't know if your birthday already passed or it's coming up, so happy birthday. Yeah. So, but my brother's an Aries. A lot of my very close friends are Aries, and y'all don't mess around. You don't play around, and you guys say what's on your mind, and I respect it. And so that's why I was like, why am I feeling so fiery? And I was like, oh, it's Aries season. That's why I'm like really fired up and like calling out the BS. So it checked out for me, and that's why I had to tweet it out, because I was like, this explains everything. Astrology explains everything for me.
What's your horoscope?
So I am a Gemini sun with a Pisces moon and a Capricorn rising. Happy to explain what all of that means later. But yeah, it just means, I mean, I say I love to talk and I like to hear stories and share stories. And I feel like that's my Gemini side. And then the Pisces moon is very creative and compassionate, very social justice oriented. And then Capricorn is very hardworking. So I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. I'm not afraid to hustle and, get out there. And I think that's really what's pushing me in my campaign, because like, it's not easy. It's not easy to run for Congress. It's not easy to do it as a person who has a full-time job, and to do it as someone who doesn't have the backing of really powerful, wealthy donors. So I feel like the Capricorn rising is like what's motivating me and pushing me, and the Gemini and Pisces are kind of like my intellectual and emotional side. But yeah, I love talking about astrology, and I was like, I have to talk about this because the Aries season is strong. It's powerful.
I love that. And yeah, I love that, it's like at the core of who you are to want to talk to people and get to know their stories. Like you were saying, you did that since you were a kid, and that's so important as someone who's running for office. So
definitely.
I think really
No,
cool.
definitely. Yeah. My parents have always tried to encourage me in the safest way possible. I would often approach people at the bus stop and ask them where they were going, and ask them, what their life story was. When I was a young kid, we used to take the bus everywhere when we only had one car. My dad would take that to work. So we would take the bus to go grocery shopping or to go to our extracurricular activities. And my mom says that I would like sit next to random strangers and be like, so where are you going? What are you up to? Where are you from? And so my parents were like, we couldn't stop you. You were going to ask the questions, whether we liked it or not. So I feel like that definitely comes from my Gemini side.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I feel like we're in the same place, like in terms of this YouTube show. Of course, it's a show that people can watch online, but honestly, selfishly, I just like to ask candidates questions and learn more.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I was thinking, let's say Natalie wanted to run for Congress, like what's the process? What's been your process so far?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to share that if that is what you want to do, because you can't just, you just can't Google it. Like, it's really like, I talk about this all the time, and I'm actually thinking of doing a series on my TikTok about it, because I don't have these connections. Like, I worked on Capitol Hill, but I don't have like candidates I can reach out to and be like, hey, how did you do this? So I literally there were a lot of tears. I will tell you, there were a lot of tears because I just didn't know what I was doing. I had to call the Federal Elections Commission so many times. But thankfully I did find a support network in the community, a lot of candidates who are running at the local level, and even some congressional candidates, like David Kim, and that were able to like kind of, give me some guidance. But it's really rough when you don't have that knowledge. But long story short, you have to open a bank account for your campaign, which is, donations, unfortunately, really do make campaign worlds run. So that's step one. And then along with that, it's filing with the FEC. So you have to create a committee for your campaign, and that committee would probably be like Natalie for Congress or something like that. And that's kind of what you sign everything under, especially like your bank account where you're going to get your donations in. And then you fill out a form to file as a candidate, and that's all on the federal level. And then you have to do state stuff. And so then on the state level, you have to sign a bunch of paperwork saying that you are officially declaring yourself a candidate. And then after that, you have to either pay a fee or gather signatures signatures. And then the signatures have to be from voters in your district. And then the registrar's office in LA County has to verify all those signatures. So we turned in close to 90 signatures. We needed at least 40 to qualify. We got 41. And everyone that we got signatures from were voters and everything, but there could have been like their signature was a little bit off, or their address wasn't the same as when they registered to vote like decades ago. And so that makes it really challenging for a lot of like young folks or like young voters. And yeah, so that's after that, then you're officially on the ballot. And that's it. So you're in it, but along with like, setting up your Act Blue, if that's where you're going to get donations, setting up your website, doing a campaign launch. It's a lot to do, especially as a person who doesn't have like fancy consultants to do it for you. I think that is a big advantage for a lot of the folks that I'm running against, is that they didn't have to do any of these things themselves. They didn't have to go to the bank and like talk to someone at the bank and try to explain what you're doing, and then make phone calls and do all these things. And so I did that all on my own with the help of my family, and we just figured it out on our own. But yeah, I'm really passionate about running for Congress, especially, more transparent and accessible for folks, because like I said, you can't Google it, and it's not like, here's a checklist of how to run for Congress. Maybe I'll make that someday, but it's very much needed, because I was asking people left and right, like, what do I do? How do I do this? And thankfully it all worked out. We're officially on the ballot. So somehow it happened. But yeah, there were a lot of late nights, a lot of tears, a lot of asking people like, can you guide me to someone who can help me out? But I think that also speaks to the inaccessibility of politics and campaigns, and how everyday folks who don't have a person in their family who ran for office before, like, you just don't know what you're doing until you do it. So yeah, happy to answer any questions. If any of your viewers have questions of how to run for office, I have a lot of friends who are running for city council. So if they're interested in something like that, happy to connect them to those folks. But yeah, we all need to like just share all the information that we have, because that's how we create, open spaces for people to actually run. And yeah, but a lot of late nights, a lot of tears, but we're here, we're on the ballot.
Yeah, and something that struck me was 40 signatures isn't too bad. Like, I feel like that part is doable. Do you know what the fee is? Is the fee a lot more?
Yeah, so the fee is, I believe, $17.40. So it's equivalent to how much you would make if you're elected to Congress. 1% of what you would make if you're elected to Congress. So if you're elected to Congress, you make $174,000. So they charge you $1,740. Right, the math checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, I was about to pull out my calculator.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with it. I took math like, a long time ago, so who knows? But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 1% of what you would be paid if you were elected to Congress. So some folks are like, I'll just pay that. But everyone has to actually get 40 signatures to be on the ballot. So yeah, and they have to all be verified. Which is like really rough in a district where a lot of folks are not registered to vote. So that was the biggest challenge I had. It's not that I didn't have supporters or people who wanted to sign, but a lot of folks were like, I'm not registered to vote, or like, I don't know, like, what the process is like. And so that was the biggest challenge, because I think it was like you have 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. I think it was 2 weeks to gather all these signatures. And also, unfortunately, a lot of people are like, I don't believe in politicians. I don't feel comfortable signing this petition, which is totally fair. So it was a lot of like educating folks and explaining to folks what the process is like. And like I said, I did it all myself. So, other candidates maybe had consultants who did it for them, who walked around and got signatures, or they had all their friends sign that were registered to vote. So yeah, it's a lot different when you don't have those kind of connections.
Right.
Yeah. How can people find you on social media? What's your usernames?
Yeah, so my username across all platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram is Lopez for Congress, Lopez with the number 4, and then Congress. And then they can also go to the website, NicoleLopezForCongress.com, to sign up to volunteer there. There's also like a form that people can fill out to ask me any questions. And I answer all the questions that I get in. So yeah, if you have any questions about the campaign or anything like that, you can send them there. And right now we are really looking for volunteers to help us canvass and start knocking on doors, phone banking, text banking. We're starting our field strategy. We're getting on the ground. So even if folks like don't feel comfortable, I know we're still in a pandemic. If they don't feel comfortable hitting the streets, they can help with phone banking and text banking. You can be based anywhere. You don't have to be a voter in the district. You don't have to be a voter at all to help out. So sign up to volunteer there on our website. We'd be happy to have anyone who wants to join and like really push for better representation in Congress. But yeah, I'm really excited. This is the best part so far. All the paperwork was terrible. But this is like my favorite part is like getting to talk with people and connecting with volunteers and community members. This is what I've been waiting for. We had to do a lot of like, paperwork and logistical stuff in the background to get here. So I'm really excited that we're finally here.
Yeah, and you're really good at it. I mean, this interview is so like chill.
Cool. I'm so glad. It's probably the Gemini in me, but yeah, I love talking to people. So I just I get really excited. And my dad would always joke when I was growing up that I was going to be a politician. I was like, I would never. And now look at me. He's like, I knew it. I could since you were like a little kid. He was like, you were always putting me in my place. So I was like, well, maybe you predicted it, but like I said, it's not about the title and it's not about the fancy seat in Congress. It's really about like just connecting with my community members that I grew up with, and having them really have someone who fights for them, like con ganas y sin miedo. Like I said, I'm not afraid, and I'm going to give it my all. My grandpa, and actually have échale ganas right here. And my grandpa would always say, you have to do everything con ganas. And I've done everything in my life con ganas, and also with the purpose of giving back to my community. So that's, it all ended up working out that I'm here now, but it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of folks getting involved. But we're ready. Like I have no doubt in my community, no doubt in my mind that we can pull through. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and we'll sign up to volunteer. We'll phone bank or canvas.
Yes, amazing.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. You're awesome. Any thoughts?
Just thank you so much. This was a great conversation, and we wish you the best of luck. Can't wait to volunteer by phone banking. I'm
so excited. Yeah, I'm so excited. I will be so excited to have you all volunteering with us. It's going to be great. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and like giving me a platform to share my story. You all are doing such really cool work. And like I said, like Fatima's interview was incredible. And so yeah, just keep doing it, because platforms like this is where like progressive candidates can actually share and reach an audience that otherwise wouldn't hear from us. So I'm so grateful that you all invited me.
We're grateful for you. Thank you so much, and good luck with this race. I really hope you win. You will win. And if not, you made an amazing impact. You inspired so many people, including us, and you're going to get a seat. I know you are.
I feel it.
Yes.
We're manifesting here. Positive vibes only. So yeah, but thank you so much. And you're exactly right. Win or lose, we're going to put pressure on the establishment and let them know that they can't take us for granted anymore. So, but thank you all so much for this space. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.